guys, welcome to my next workout with Nathan Gonzaga. This one is going to be a more athletic workout this time around. So first off, let's jump to it. Alright, so we're going to kick things off with about 30 seconds of some good old-fashioned jumping jacks here. As you'd like. I usually hit about 10 reps, and then we're going to move over to some unilateral calf raises. Get a little bit more weight on each leg, get a little bit more blood flow, get a little bit more contraction out of those muscles down there in our calves. And now let's bring it uptown a little bit to our arms. So now we're going to do some arm swings, across the chest. About 30 seconds as well. We're going for time here, not reps. But we still want some good reps though, alright? And as soon as we're done with those, we're going to hop into some nice little front circles with our arms. And then right after that, we're going to hop into some backward circles. Hey, yeah. And now we're going to go ahead and roll out those shoulders a little bit, get some more blood flow up to those trapezials. Get some more blood flow up to those deltoids in both sides. Dang, look at this pump, bro. Look at the pump this guy got, man. Oh my. Oh my, I want to be him so bad. Alright, now we're going to bring it back down a little bit with some body weight squats. So just trying to get a little bit of blood flow to the muscles. Increase that little bit of range of motion there to prepare us for the intense workout we got ahead of us today, chat. rest as before. Do about 10 reps on each side and make sure you're keeping that spine in line with the rest of your body. Bend into the side directly. Really stretch out those obliques and crunch them up at the very top of every rep. And lastly, for deep squats for about 30 seconds. As you can see here, I'm holding on to something. That way I can maintain that stability and to maintain that super low position in order to open up my hips and stretch out my ankles. Now these here are thoracic extensions on a foam roller. We need to do these in order to open up our back just a little bit more. Loosen up the erectors here for them cleans, for them snatches we got here. You gotta be ready for it. You gotta have some good mobility, some upper body mobility. We just worked on that lower body mobility. Now we gotta work on the upper body mobility. Alright, you feel me? You hear me, bro? You hear me, bro? Alright, specific time. We're gonna do some glute marches here. 10 reps each side. Now we're gonna be holding a goblet squat with some weight. Really open up the hips here. Hold that for about 30 seconds. Next up, we want to stretch out these calves a little bit more. We're going to get a little bit deeper in the calf positions today. Going to do about 10 reps here, really stretching out those calves in a box.
snatches, yo.
Set up with the bar, with the grip wide enough to have that bar sit in my hips there. You see how it's sitting right where my hips bend and my knee and my legs bend at my femurs? That's exactly where we want to grip the bar. You want to make sure to have an overhand grip, and I prefer to use hook grip personally. That's just me. If you're not using hook grip, you're wrong. And if you don't want to, at least do overhand grip. Alright, at least wrap that thumb around. But like I said, if you're not doing hook grip, you're wrong. And now you see me doing some full snatches here. So we want to make sure to hit that good, nice triple extension at the top. And you see how that bar is sitting right into my hip crease? Every time I extend, that's exactly what the bar. Also, I need to make sure to let you know that bar needs to be evenly distributed between them hands there, alright? So here you see the front of the bag. You see from the bag, we got them snatches all the way up and then all the way down. That's called a full snatch right there. And next up, we got hip snatches here. Now you see those little pink things? Those are called straps, man. I like to use them for any sort of hang variation because it makes it a lot easier on my hands and I can focus on the movement. I don't gotta worry about my grip strength or nothing. Cause I do this with significantly more weight than 95 pounds. Review my ass Dr. Doggo, cause he been seeing me in the gym sometimes, alright? But if you don't believe me, just ask the dude. Just ask the dude. But if you don't have straps, just use that hook grip, man. Because you shouldn't be doing overhand. Because you should be doing hook grip. Be able to see that I'm keeping that bar right in my hip crease as I extend all the way up. And you can tell we really need that mobility in order to hold that bar right overhead. That's why we did the foam roller extensions, those thoracic extensions earlier, man. That's what I told you, bro. We start the transition from the lower body pull to the upper body transition into the catch. You see there, it's basically a front squat. Basically a front squat grip there, alright? So you can see my hands are in a prone position. Again, at about where I would squat if I was doing a front squat. And the whole time I want to keep that hook grip, but then I'm going to transition into just a regular old overhand grip whenever I catch that bar into my chest. Into my shoulder goes. Alright, so here we got them full cleans, or full cleans. I just call them cleans because I do this thing, and I think it's weird whenever people call them full cleans. But if you just ask me, I just say cleans. But the reason it's called a full clean is because you're squatting all the way down, bro. Do you see this? Look at this mobility. Oh my. Oh my. above with our legs. We don't want to hop into that full position, that full squat position. We don't do that. Because power cleans are about power. So you catch it at either 90 degrees parallel or above. Got jerks here, so we're gonna grab that bar with them prone position hands with that overhand grip at about a front squat grip as well. And you can see here I'm showing you the dip drive mechanics here through some push pressing, but then you see right there I do split jerk. And here what we're gonna do, keep that full foot pressure throughout the whole dip and drive, and then whenever you go up there we're doing that split jerk. So we want to keep them hips right in between both of our feet, and we want to maintain that upper body pressure in our shoulders to keep constantly pushing against that ball, because it gets pretty hard to hold 200 pounds over your head if you're not pressing against it actively the entire time, fool. Jerks. Next up, we got them power jerks. So just like them power cleans, same thing here. We want to push that ball just high enough to where we can catch it at either parallel or above. Also, this one, we don't move our feet forward and backward. We move them side to side, just like a regular old squat. You heard? The last variation here, I did squat jerks just to show off that I'm better than everybody that's doing this video assignment. I don't actually think that, but it was the only other variation I could think of that was normal. Well, not normal, but cool, I guess. And to show off my mobility, of course. So that's cool. It's essentially the power jerk, just caught way lower. got some jumps. Here we're doing some regular old squat jumps with the barbell. We're going to keep these continuously for about 5 reps, going as fast and as explosively as you can. lunge jumps for height, so that we're going to reset in between each rep. Next, we get one step into a straight leg box jump here. Going for height, going only for a few reps.
Right. Five whole seconds.